One night I opened a drawer in my father's old house. Inside were dozens of envelopes. Every single one had my name written on it. For years I believed my success was my own achievement. Until I discovered the truth hidden in those envelopes. A truth about my father's silent sacrifices. A truth that shook my heart. And made me realize how blind I had been. What I found in the last envelope changed everything I believed about my life. And in that moment I understood something many sons realize far too late. Sometimes the deepest love in the world speaks through silence. Stay with me until the end of this story. Because what my father did for me may change the way you look at your own parents forever. I remember the sound of the old wooden gate every morning. It creaked slowly. Like it carried the weight of many years. And many untold stories. I used to wake up before sunrise. Not because I wanted to. But because the small house made every sound louder. The kettle boiling. The floorboards sighing. And my father's quiet footsteps. He always moved gently. As if he was afraid to disturb the world. Or maybe just afraid to wake me. I was young then. Young enough to believe that life was simple. And that fathers were strong by nature. Like mountains. Like walls that never fall. My father never spoke much. He was a man of few words. But his hands told stories. Rough hands. Cracked by cold winters. Burned by hot metal. And scarred by years of work. He worked at a small repair workshop near the railway station. The air there smelled of oil, iron, and dust. Sometimes when he came home in the evening, that smell came with him. I hated that smell when I was a child. I used to wrinkle my nose and step away. My father would notice. But he would only smile. A quiet smile. The kind that hides something deeper. Our house was small. 2 rooms. A narrow kitchen. And a window that looked toward the road where buses passed all day. I spent most evenings sitting near that window. Dreaming of another life. A bigger city. A bigger house. A life that felt brighter. Louder. More important. Sometimes I looked at my father sitting at the table. Counting coins slowly. Very carefully. His head bent low under the weak yellow light. I thought he looked tired. But I never asked why. I was young. And youth is often blind. One evening I asked him a question. A simple question. Why do we live like this? Other children have better things. Better clothes. Better homes. Better lives. My father looked at me. For a long moment. There was no anger in his eyes. Only a deep quiet. Like a lake that holds many secrets. He said softly, "One day you will understand." That answer annoyed me. It felt empty. It felt like a door closing in front of me. Years passed. I studied. I worked hard. And finally I left that small town. The city welcomed me with bright lights, tall buildings, and endless noise. I found success quickly. A good job. A beautiful apartment. Fine clothes. Expensive watches. People respected me. They called me successful. But I rarely returned home. I told myself I was busy. Important. My father never complained. He only asked one question each time I called. "Are you healthy?" That was all. No demands. No advice. Just those simple words. Years passed like pages turning in the wind. Until one cold winter morning. My phone rang very early. The voice on the other side sounded nervous. It was our neighbor. "Your father collapsed at the workshop. You should come." I arrived in the town by evening. The streets looked smaller. The buildings looked older. The air smelled exactly the same. Oil. Dust. Memories. The hospital room felt silent. Too silent. My father lay on the bed. His face looked pale, but peaceful. Machines hummed quietly beside him. For the first time in my life, he looked fragile, like glass. The doctor spoke gently. Your father worked too much. For too many years. His heart is very weak. You should prepare yourself. Those words struck me like cold water. Prepare yourself. For what? For losing the man who had always been there. The man I barely understood. The man I rarely visited. That night I could not sleep. I walked through the old house. Everything remained the same. The same wooden table. The same kettle. The same creaking floor. Then I noticed something strange. A small locked drawer in the cabinet. I had never seen it open before. The key was taped beneath the table, as if it waited for someone to find it. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the drawer. Inside there were envelopes. Many envelopes. Old. Yellow. Carefully arranged. Each envelope had a date written on it. And a name. My name. My heart began to beat faster. I opened the first one. Inside there was money. A small amount. And a note written in my father's careful handwriting. Formosan's school books. The next envelope. Formosan's university entrance exam. Another envelope. Formosan's future apartment. Another. Formosan's wedding one day. There were dozens of them. Dozens of silent sacrifices. Each envelope told the same story. My father had been saving every coin. Every year. Every season. For me. Even when I believed we were poor. Even when I believed he gave me nothing. I suddenly remembered the nights when he counted coins under that yellow light. The long hours at the workshop. The silence. The tired smile. My chest tightened. Something inside me began to break. And then I saw the last envelope. It was newer than the others. The paper was still clean. The handwriting looked slightly shaky. I opened it slowly. Inside there was a folded letter. And something else. Something that made my hands freeze. My breath stopped for a moment. Because what I saw inside the envelope changed everything I believed about my father. And in that instant, standing alone in the quiet kitchen, with the weak yellow light above me, I realized there was still one sacrifice of his that I had not yet understood. And the truth behind it was waiting for me in the hospital room where my father lay sleeping, unaware that his silent secret was about to change my life forever. I stood there in the quiet kitchen. The letter trembled in my hands. The paper was thin, but the weight of it felt heavier than anything I had ever held. Inside the envelope there was also a small document. A bank receipt. The amount written on it made my heart stop. It was the exact amount that had helped me buy my first apartment in the city. The same money I once proudly believed I had earned through my own strength. My eyes moved back to the letter. My father's handwriting was slower. More fragile. But every word carried warmth. My son. You once asked me why we lived such a simple life. I could not explain it then. Because dreams grow better in silence. I knew one day you would want to leave this small town. And the world outside can be very hard. A father cannot walk every road beside his son. But he can quietly prepare the road ahead. If you are reading this, it means my heart finally became tired. Do not feel sad for me. My life was full. Because watching you grow was my greatest joy. Just promise me one thing. When life becomes good for you, Look around. There will always be someone carrying pain quietly. Be the person who notices. Be the person who helps. Because kindness is the only wealth that never disappears. My vision blurred. Tears fell onto the paper. For the first time in many years, I understood the silence of my father. His love had never needed words. It lived in sacrifices I never saw. In nights he worked while I slept. In dreams he protected while I chased my own. The next morning I sat beside his hospital bed and gently held his rough hand. The same hand that had built my entire future. In that moment I understood a truth many people learn too late. The greatest love in life is often the quietest. And the deepest sacrifices are the ones no one talks about. That day I made a promise. To live in a way that would make his silent sacrifices meaningful. And to never forget that true greatness begins with gratitude and grows through kindness toward others.